He's willing to look at the facts as long as they're coming out of his mouth. Of course, he can't figure out how to fix any of that. But we're still the laughing stock when it comes to crime. Although I'm crying about it. I'm not laughing because it's really sad to watch people beaten to their lives in the subway system.
Including our colleagues.
Very scary. I mean, so here are some inconvenient truths, but once you get into the facts, there are problems.
Once she said, when you get into the facts, you kind of knew it wasn't appropriate for Fox News. During a segment on one of the go-to hot topics that you'll find on Fox News, no, not Hunter Biden, no, not the caravan, no, not the balloon, but coastal crime rates, of course.
He's willing to look at the facts as long as they're coming out of his mouth. Of course, he can't figure out how to fix any of that. But we're still the laughing stock when it comes to crime. Although I'm crying about it. I'm not laughing because it's really sad to watch people beaten to their lives in the subway system.
But one of the Fox News guests decided to kind of go off script a little bit and actually present something that is very rare to both Fox News hosts and, more often than not, Fox News' audience. Some truth.
He's willing to look at the facts as long as they're coming out of his mouth. Of course, he can't figure out how to fix any of that. But we're still the laughing stock when it comes to crime. Although I'm crying about it. I'm not laughing because it's really sad to watch people beaten to their lives in the subway system.
Including our colleagues. Very scary. I mean, so here are some inconvenient truths. Orlando has a very high crime rate, too. It's 50% higher in violent crime than New York right now. Miami, very comparable with a Republican mayor. So these things are not that simple, but I get the strategy. The strategy is support police. Come here, come to Florida, we'll support you. And that's a slam dunk politically. But once you get into the facts, there are problems on
Lauren,
both sides.
One thing I would say is to dig down deeper into the types of crime. Yeah, because, carjackings and those things are always a slippery slope, and they are dealing with that.
Right.
Well, because it's a slippery slope. It's a one-on-one type of crime, potentially. But what we're talking about is people being beaten as they're walking in the subway system. These are not crimes for any crime's sake. They're not taking anything. They're not in the process of taking a car. You have to take a look at what those crimes look like and what that means for the citizenry. And it's all over the place here. There are 8 million people, and on any given day, any given Sunday. It is different than the types of crime that you're looking at, but crime is crime if it's in your neighborhood.
And Adams has some popular policies.
Defunding the police.
He's got some popular policies. Murders are down 11% year over year in New York.
Absolutely.
So he would say, not that I'm Eric Adams' advocate, but he would probably say, look, I've been doing some of these things that you want, but it's taking a long time, and that's not satisfying.
I think that
this segment came in response to Ron DeSantis after he was flaunting Florida as this crime-free utopia. But in reality, it's far from it. In fact, Orlando has a higher crime rate than that of New York City. But the thing is, it's not just Fox that like to play the coastal crime game. In fact, you'll find most Republicans talking about New York and California rather than discussing their own state. Well, they used to until they tried it in front of Jamie Raskin, as we remember.
Yeah,
because, carjackings and those things are always a slippery slope, and they are dealing with that.
Right.
Well, because it's a slippery slope.
I'm pretty sure we haven't had a carjacking in my congressional district in several years. If someone thought about carjacking a vehicle in my district, probably wouldn't end well for them.
If you Google carjacking in Kentucky, what will come up is just a few months ago, 2 people were carjacked in different incidents at gunpoint in Louisville, which I think is in the state of Kentucky. And since we're talking about state laws, that's what should be relevant. So carjacking is obviously a problem across the country. The conceit of the other side seems to be that they care more about crime and public safety in Washington, D.C. than people who live in Washington, D.C. We just got lectures from 2 different members from New York about the terrible conditions in New York. Well, if that's what their concern is, then they should run for the New York State Legislature and change the laws that are involved if they can persuade their fellow citizens that they've got it right. If they can't, then maybe they should reconsider what their agenda is. But in any event, if you want to micromanage the laws of Washington, D.C. and rewrite this 275-page act that was passed to revise the criminal code, which they hadn't revised in a century, with the input of federal and local judges, prosecutors, public defenders, D.C. Council, then move to Washington, D.C. and run for the D.C. City Council.
And I've commented on this several times across many videos where you'll find Republicans discussing, one, states that they haven't even stepped foot in and never will, they just complain about, and two, that's because they want to deflect from the fire on their own street.
I did some research last night just to clarify matters. The 7 states with the highest murder rates in 2020 all were states that were majority for Donald Trump in the 2020 election. The murder rate in the states that voted for Trump was higher in aggregate than the murder rate in the states that voted for Biden in each year from 2000 to 2020. So I would invite the gentleman not to lecture the people of Washington, D.C. about crime rates, because the murder rate is worse in the red states than it is in the blue states.
The best part of waking up? MAGA tears in my cup. Check out the new MAGA tears mug available now at store.MeidasTouch.com. That's store.MeidasTouch.com. It's 100% union made right here in the USA. I know I'm not tired of winning yet. How about you? Get yours today.